Yes, indeed. We are back with another Dune review. We're doing 4 and 5. I realized I could for sure do like 2 chapters, maybe 3. I could do more because these chapters be like either super short or really long. So like it really depends on how I feel, like how much I want to read through it. Because with this bunch I read, I was going through it. These men, like, I want to keep on going, but I was like, wait a second, let me pause real quick because it's going to be like a lot of information for the video. So let me slow down for you guys. So we're going to see how it works. Also, I don't want to upload like back to back because you'll see this with the next upload. Like, I'm making like a slight pattern with the uploads and the pictures and whatnot. So you're going to see like a diagonal pattern with the Doom videos. So that's going to be cool to see. So that's why I had to like make more videos too. I don't know. This is a tangent, but this is like a whole tangent I'm realizing. But this channel is about my thoughts anyway, so it doesn't matter. Chapters 4 and 5. I like these chapters. Chapter 4 was I'll say the most dense because we got into their human computer. I think his name is pronounced Durford. Durfur Hawat. We'll call him Hawat. We got into Hawat, his mindset, him looking at Paul and whatnot. And something you realize with so far in these first 5 chapters is people are always talking about how observant Paul is when it comes to things and how they have to like move differently because they know how observant he is and like how he picks up on things. Like even like the small things Paul picks up on it. They make that a point all the time. Especially in this chapter too. With Howard, he was talking to Paul and like how he was shifting and whatnot. Paul knows his uncomfortableness and like he then pauses so Paul wouldn't notice that he's uncomfortable, talking uneasy. So stuff like that I really appreciate that just building up like, Paul's awareness and wanting to like read people pretty well. Because again, like his mother taught him the ways that the Bene Gesserit, I believe it's called, or the witch ladies. And their whole job is to be like, I think they're called truth slayers. Or truth sayers, there it is. So they're supposed to be able to pick up someone's lie or whatnot and read the human body. So that's their whole job. So her teaching her son that at such a young age kind of built him up to that. To read people's and the little small things, like stuff like this. So I think that's really cool. And this chapter also starts off too with like, what's the word? And Howard's mind too. Because walks to the room and he sees Paul's walls turn to the door. He's like, and his thought is, I always tell Paul not to have his wall turned to the door because you never know what could happen. And then Paul says out loud, I know my back is turned to the door, but I know it was you, so it didn't matter. And so, Howard was like, bro, that's pretty impressive, but it's at the same time kind of eerie. Like, how did you know it was me? And like, how did you know it was me? And Paul was like, it's because I recognize your footsteps, So stuff like that. And then we go more into like their conversation. This is really just us understanding the gravity of going to Arrakis. Because this is chapter, we got into 2 people's minds. Well, it's technically everyone's mind, but like, everyone gets their own inner dialogue. So we got Gurney, who's like I think is he the weapon master? Or the hired sword? No, because I think Duncan's the hired weapon master and Gurney's the hired sword. Yeah. So we got into Gurney's mind and Howard's mind. Howard is talking about Pamba, like, his conversation with the Reverend Mother. And the Reverend Mother was talking about like what it means to rule and what it means to be like a good ruler and whatnot. And she said a couple quotables, which I'm going to pull up right now. That I thought was interesting. It was... I think I'll just read this full paragraph. And I think that should probably do it. No, I don't think I need to read the full thing. I just need to find the point. Yeah, here it is right here. Grave this on your memory, lad. A world is supported by 4 things. She held up 4 big-knuckled fingers. The learning of the wise, the justice of the great, the praise of the righteous, and the valor of the brave. But all of these are nothing. She closed her fingers into a fist without a ruler who knows the art of ruling. Make that the science of your tradition. So I thought that was very important thing she was saying. And it's also, setting Paul up to be a better ruler. Because right now his people are talking about like how his dad kind of did like a bad play. He was advised not to take Arrakis, but he took it anyway. And like people are saying this is probably not a wise move right now because again, a lot of people are going towards him. And as we know, the Harokans plus the Imperial family are planning to try to assassinate Paul and take out this entire house and take Arrakis for themselves. So everyone knows it's a bad move, but yet Paul's dad done it anyway because he thinks he could probably outmaneuver them or something. So it was just a bad play on his part. Which we're going to probably soon to realize. You know what I mean? So I think that's very interesting. How a lot of people are saying this. And then like this Paul kind of learning from the silence. Okay, my dad probably made like a bad move and whatnot. What can I do? Like what can I learn from him after this? And like it's just him also being worried too. Saying, is Arrakis being like as bad as people are saying this? Because like the entire chapter people are hyping up like how terrible Arrakis is going to be. The grave dangers of it. And Paul's thinking like, is Arrakis really this bad? It's going to be really bad for us. And a watch trying to comfort him saying, it's not going to be that bad. We should be straight. Trying to comfort because again, he's still trying at the end of the day. So that was cool. And then we move over to, I think it's Gurney. Yeah, Gurney. And in the beginning of chapter 2, this is something I think is kind of important. Like it's, different passages from books by the Princess Urulan. And I'll read this passage too because I think it's pretty nice. It's the beginning of the chapter, by the way. This is beginning of chapter 4. You have read that Muad'Dib had no playmates his own age on Caladan. The dangers were too great. But Muad'Dib did have wonderful companions and teachers. There was Gurney Halleck, the Trowbowder warrior. You will sing some of Gurney's songs as you read along in the book. There was Sturfer Hawat, the old mental master of assassins, who shook fear into the heart of the Palladish Emperor. There were Duncan Idaho, the swords master of the Ginaz. Dr. Wellington Yueh, a name black in treachery but bright in knowledge. The Lady Jessica who guided her son in the Bene Gesserit way. And of course, Duke Leto, whose qualities as a father has long been overlooked. So these little passages, it seems like, are like, I really said like a lot. It's whatever. These little passages seem to me to be like history books, kind of. Like, yeah, it says right here, a child's history of Muad'Dib. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's going more into Dr. Yueh's betrayal and whatnot, which we do follow up in the next chapter. But going back to chapter 4, it was just us getting that character interacts between Gurney and Paul, and how like that is kind of like Paul's friend. They were having like banter and whatnot. Then like Paul was talking about how he put sand in Gurney's bed, and then they wanted to duel. And then Gurney was like, "All right, let's time to like do some practice with swords." And then Paul said, "I'm not in the mood to like fight right now." Then like Gurney had like a switch on him, like he kind of switched, changed personalities, got very intense. And like, what do you mean you're not in the mood to fight? And like, there's no such thing as being in the mood to fight. Either you fight or you're not. Something along those lines. And Paul realized the intensity of that, so he had to like lock in and like, actually defend himself. He actually thought, Gurney was trying to kill him, and like he might try to assassinate him. He thought like Gurney was gonna betray him. That wasn't the case. Gurney was just, testing him to, for him to lock in, because when it comes to fighting, there is no move for fighting. Either you fight or you don't fight. You know what I mean? It's life or death. There's no, oh, I don't feel like fighting. I think there was a good quote for that, if I could find it. Not there. There it is. I guess I'm not in the mood for today, Paul said. Mood? Halleck's voice betrayed his outrage, even through the shield's filtering. What has mood to do with it? You fight when the necessity arises, no matter the mood. Mood's a thing for cattle or the making love or playing the bowsit. It's not for fighting. I'm sorry, Gurney, said Paul. You're not sorry enough. And then they started fighting. And then at that point, Paul's like, what's going on here? Why is he so intense? But again, it's because Gurney also is realizing too, like, they're probably going to go into practically a trap right now, and he needs Paul to be prepared for any circumstances. So, he needs to make sure he's up to Paul when it comes to sword fighting and just defending himself, because that is kind of his job too. is to make sure Paul's well equipped for the world. So that was pretty nice. And like, Gurney admitted to it too, like, hey, listen, that just needed to happen. You need to, lock in, stuff like that. Cool little character moment between the two. Setting them up to be like, that is one of his companions. Like, through that chapter, you kind of see them having that friendship. Now, I'm done with that chapter. We went to chapter 5, which was the short chapter. And this is kind of like all Dr. Yueh's mindset. And I'll read the beginning of this chapter too. Yueh, Wellington. Standard, this is like a number. It's like 10,082 to 10,191. Medical doctor of the Suez School, graduated 10,112. Married to Juana Marcus, BG. Standard STDRD, whatever that means. 10,092 to 10,186 question mark. Chiefly noted as the portrayal of Duke Leto Atreides. By Bibliography Appendix 6 or 7, Imperial Conditioning and Betrayal, the line. From the Dictionary of Muad'Dib by Princess Urlan. So again, explaining who Dr. Yueh is and like his great portrayal, because Paul did, like, in this chapter you see how like Paul does trust Yueh, like, because that is one of his teachers. I teach him like a lot of stuff. And you remember in chapter 4 even says like one of Yueh's things about like how the way the universe works when answering a question with the Reverend Mother. So he takes Yueh's teachings pretty seriously. Like, he respects Yueh to some degree. So this whole chapter is like Yueh just feeling guilty about like what he's about to do. Gave Paul like a gift too, and like in the chat he's like, why'd I give this kid a gift if I know I'm gonna have to like kill him at some point? Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm giving him more pain and myself more pain doing this, but I gotta do this to save my wife, because I figure the Rokans took his wife hostage or whatever, and like he had to kill Paul Atreides so he could save his wife. And the Rokans are pretty bad too, because like in the chapter we realized too, Gurney's sister was she died in the pleasure house on the Hirokan planet as well. So his sister is now dead. I'm thinking of his sister at the end of the chapter. So I forgot to say that part, but I feel like that was pretty important. Like, to some motivation of, Gurney not being a fan of the Hirokans for them like killing his sister. So that aside, we see Paul talking to Yueh asks about Arrakis and whatnot, notes, or he's giving him notes to study Arrakis about small creatures. And Paul wants to learn more about the Freemen. Because we learned last chapter too, like there's like a small group of Freemen fighters, but there could be like a lot more that they don't even know about. Gurney says so they know like how much large population is. So Paul's trying to, what's what I'm looking for? Learn about the Freemen too, because he thinks if we get them as an ally, that'll be like a huge benefit to us. Because another thing, what's he face? That was said in chapter 4, that I think was pretty important as well. It was what to talk with. There it is. She said a ruler must learn to persuade and not to compel. She said he must lay the best coffee earth to attract the finest men. How she figure your father attracted men like Duncan and Gurney, Howard asked. Paul shrugged. Then she said a good ruler has to learn the world's language. That is different for every word. And I thought she meant they didn't speak Galak or Arrakis. But she said that wasn't it at all. She said she meant the language of the rocks and the growing things. The language that you don't hear with just your ears. And I said that's what Dr. Yueh calls mystery of life. So that was a tie-in right there for you guys as well. So yeah. Sorry. There we go. So yeah, now Paul's thinking like again, learning the way of the people, like learning their language. He's thinking like, okay, if we could befriend the Freemen as allies, that'd be very helpful to us to what's to come later on. So Paul's already trying to think ahead, trying to be like that ruler. People trying to set him up too deep. So back to the chapter. This whole chapter was just Yueh's mental battle of like, dang, I'm gonna have to actually sum up this kid, and I feel so bad about it. Then he gives him like this gift, which being like a Catholic Bible, and then he tells him to open the Bible to like a folded page, and then Paul opens up the folded page, and that folded page happened to be Actually, I'll read the part right here. So yeah, Yueh wanted Paul to open up the book on a notch. He said he left on the book, but Paul felt 2 notches. So then he went to the shallower notch, then started to read that out loud. And then when he started reading it, Dr. Yueh started tweaking and say, "Hey, stop reading that." And then when we learned his dialogue is that notch was from his wife's favorite passage, and he didn't realize, and he thought that notch wasn't still there, but it still was. So like the notch he wanted Paul to go to was there, but he went to the wife's notch instead because Paul think he felt the fakeness of it. He's like, let me see what this notch is about, because you would thought it was like by fate. Like, how did Paul pick a random page out of everything that happened to be my wife's favorite passage? You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. But yeah, it was just the Catholic Bible he said is very interesting. It's like an old style book as well, and that was mainly the chapter for the book. Or I mean, that was mainly the chapter for this set right here, for chapter 5. Just, Yueh's inner monologue of feeling the gravitas, I guess, of betraying his own student to save his wife and whatnot, and like him torturing himself, kind of, giving him a book, still trying to be his friend and whatnot, even though he knows he has to kill him at some point. But yeah, overall, again, 2 good chapters. Like, I can complain whatsoever. These are pretty darn good. I like what's going on with the story so far. I'm curious about how they're going to pull off the death. How they're going to explain that? Because again, all this book really is. Well, obviously it's a book. It's just the detail around it. Like how immersed you get inside the book. So that's pretty nice. Obviously, I watched the movies first, so I already have an idea what's going on. But these books just add more context to everything, which I appreciate. It's kind of like doing like a director's cut with notes. So that's kind of nice. So I'm starting to see more of it. So the real surprise is only going to be Dune Messiah for sure. It's going to be like the real surprise. But overall, not too bad chapters. I messed with chapter 4 and 5. Would I say I have them over 3 and 4? Or 2 and 3? 2 and 3 were solid, but 4 and 5 were pretty good. Like, I have 4 and 5 over 2 and 3. Yeah, I'll go with that. But that is it for this review. If you enjoyed me rambling on about Dune, please like and subscribe and all that lovely fun stuff. And remember, once we finish the first part of this book, we're going to be watching the movie on Twitch. We're going to do like a Twitch watch party. So it's going to be Dune, read the book, watch movie, read the book, read second part of the book, watch movie, read Dune Messiah, and then by that time we finish Dune Messiah, the movie should be out. So that will be it for the review and all that great stuff. That's the plan. Had to remind you guys of the process, the journey we're going through together. And yeah, like and subscribe. And I'm done now. Okay? Bye.